Hi everybody, welcome to the Chat Inbetween podcast. It is good to be here with my great friend and colleague Jason Nike from Freshground London. Hey Jason, you alright?
Hey Matt. Yeah, good thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm alright, yeah. You coping alright? How's lockdown?
Yeah, lockdown, I think I said to you before, it's like that weird period in between Christmas and New Year just never ended. We're sort of in this limbo land.
Yeah.
Kids still at home, not sure what day it is, what time it is.
Yeah.
So it's trying to.
Yeah, I can see that you're at Fresh Ground. Is that a little bit of a hideaway for you, a bit of your space?
Yeah, it's just a place where I can have some good coffee because it's all gone out of date, and get my sermon prep done for Sundays and just have a bit of space away from the home and away from the kids and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's one of those invisible things that people not really talked about too much. That sort of cabin fever thing when you're just around the same people every single day, and
Yeah.
it takes some energy, and it does take some energy to be around the same people like that.
Yeah, it's not, and they're good kids. It's not like they're teenagers, so they're not like needing assistance with their online learning or anything. It's just, I think it's more for me. I've always been a bit of someone who likes being out and about and with people and out of the house, really. So
I know
it's been beneficial.
I was talking to somebody today, and about their workplace, and then missing, that interaction, of just, the water cooler stuff when you just chit chatting through the day and just meeting the dynamic of a workplace, and they're really sort of not struggling, but they're realizing that they're missing it. The hustle and the bustle.
Yeah.
Especially for you as a cafetier. A cafetier? That can't be the right.
Cafetiere? No, that's wrong.
Somebody who manages a cafe.
Yeah.
Because that's that cafe church life, isn't it? The community, the humdrum of.
Yeah, definitely.
The hubbub, I should say, of church life.
It's funny. We had we got a therapy room at the church here as well, where we've got a therapist working. They're still allowed to operate throughout lockdown, but obviously most of the week they're the only ones in the building. And when I was here a bit earlier in the week and I had the coffee machine going, she just said, "Oh, it's so nice just to have the smell back in the building."
Yeah.
So there's a sort of there's a smell to an empty building, and a kind of
an emptiness.
Well, funny enough, I've heard that buildings that are unoccupied, even if you keep the heating on and various things, they rot quicker than buildings that have people and presence in them, which I thought was a great sermon illustration, if nothing else. But
that's
you can really.
Well, I definitely see that. I mean, like for me, I've pretty much been in church for the last 10 months by myself with Gabe and a couple of others. But really, during the week, you're really there by yourself, and we've had to do the upkeep. We do have the cleaners in, and because otherwise it does get musty and dusty and smells empty really quick. So it is interesting.
We had a leak with all the rain we've had, but I'd not noticed it because we're in a slightly unusual area of the building. Right. And when I got to it last week, there was actually mushrooms growing in the mold.
That's on the rest. That's on the menu. Mushroom soup.
Yeah.
Fresh ground mushroom soup.
It makes you feel really good.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. That's so good. So, but generally, you've been doing all right, and your well-being's okay. And
yeah. I mean, I think like a little bit flat, missing that energy that you draw from other people and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you sort of comparatively to what some people are going through, I think it's, my heart really does go out to those who are really suffering, whether it's financially or socially, and or whether they're grieving the loss of loved ones and stuff.
100%.
I don't feel, whilst I can say I feel a bit flat, I don't think it's fair to sort of complain too much.
I know what you mean. Every context is different, and that's your context. So it's legit, isn't it? Right, okay then. All right. So we're doing our 10 questions, 10 answers with a bit of chat in between, just to get to know you. And you've been to our church before, you've spoke at our church, been around the church a little bit over the years that I've been here. So it's really just a light, fun, semi-serious way of getting to know you. And just a little bit of light in lockdown, a bit of a smile on a Friday night for my church congregation.
Yeah.
So we're going to crack on. Are you ready?
Have
you got any phobias? I
don't think I've got any active ones at the moment. So I think about this when you said this might be one of the questions, and I think what I used to have a phobia of moths when I was younger.
I've got a phobia of moths. This is the first time I've matched up with somebody.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
That's the way they dive bomb you, don't they?
They're horrible. They're worse than butterflies. And they're big fat bodies.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. And they sort of the way they fly around a light bulb and sort of create that sort of dramatic horror lighting as well, which isn't nice. But I'm the youngest of 4 brothers, so they knew about this phobia when I was young. So they used to like hide moths, like live moths in my drawer and stuff.
Are you the youngest?
Different places. Yeah, I'm the youngest. Yeah, I got teased quite badly, and you'd open a drawer and a moth would fly out. You're like, ah.
What, just one, or did they get like a collection of moths flying out at you?
I can't remember whether they had a collection, but then sometimes you'd find dead moths and things as well, which they'd hidden, like under your pillow or something like that.
Oh,
so yeah, no, it's quite.
Those are the worst.
Yeah.
Mine came from. We used to live in the countryside when I was very young, over in the Wirral, and like a real childhood memory. Everything's big, isn't it? If it's a real memory. So I remember in my little fevered brain, right, opening a door, the front door of where we lived, and about 6 massive moths. They were probably only that big, but to my little 3-year-old, 4-year-old brain, just whoom, right in my face, just right up off the floor. And that was the start of it. That was the start of my moth phobia, because in my child's eye, they were big and their bodies were massively fat. I
was saying this to my son Peter. He's got a bit of phobia of spiders.
Yeah.
So Dad, can you go in my room? There's a spider in my room, and they go in, and it's the tiniest little thing. And I said, oh, Peter, that's absolutely tiny. He said, exactly, that could crawl up my nose and into my brain. So it's like,
yeah, they're based in real things, aren't they? Phobias. Yeah. Moths. That's not a bad one, though. I mean, I'm sure you can deal with that as an adult.
Yeah, it's not been a problem for a few years. Maybe because I don't live with my brothers anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like that. It sounds like there's an element of cruelty there. But big brothers are like that anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
My brother used to like jump on me on the bed and put the covers over and then keep them tight until I was suffocating to make me feel like I was,
Yeah, at a period in my teens, it was just like living in sort of a conflict zone between, like 2 of the brothers, 2 out of 4 of us would usually be having some sort of fight or disagreement. And we used to run away from, annoy each other, hit each other, or run away from each other, and hold the doors really tight. And then in our house, all our bedroom doors, you can see the bottoms all have massive cracks in them, where you'd held the door tight and the other brother would run up and kick the door like that.
No way.
There'd be holes in the plasterboard.
I love it. Now the question is, why have you got a phobia of moths when you should have a phobia of your brothers?
Yeah, that's too deep. I think I'd probably need therapy for that one.
Yeah, the moths are your brothers. Yeah, it makes life easier.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a good one. We've had being scared of rats. We've had being scared of spiders and stuff. But that's a good one. I like that one. Moths. Yeah, nice one. Okay, next question. If you went to a record player or a digital device or said, Alexa, play, what would be the song that you would most like to hear if it played a song?
Well, I can tell you my favourite guy at the moment is a guy called Gregory Porter.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of like a jazz bluesy kind of gospel singer. And he's just got like a really sweet chocolatey
He's got a beautiful voice.
So smooth.
Yeah.
So I've really liked his stuff.
So what was his first name? George.
Gregory Porter. Yeah, Gregory Porter.
And have you got a song that you really think, that sums him up?
Well, yeah, I've got a song and an anecdote because I met him once.
Oh, okay, cool.
But we played a lot of his music in the cafe because it's like really good kind of cafe kind of music, quite chilled and relaxed. And he's got this particular song called "Hey Laura," and my wife's called Laura.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it sort of goes, "Hey Laura, it's me. Sorry, but I had to ring your doorbell so late." Anyway,
here he goes.
Oh, you got it.
Sorry, but I had to ring your doorbell so late.
It's almost as if
there's something bothering me.
Oh, he has got a great voice, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it just couldn't wait.
It's so layered. It's so nice, smooth.
Is there someone else instead of me?
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, I was always singing that song to Laura, who's like, "Hey, Laura, it's me," coming through the door or whatever.
Yeah,
But then I met him at Wimbledon. Went to the tennis, and he was there waiting to go on the court alongside me. So I just said, "Oh, if you see him, he always wears like a hat over his head. I think he had some sort of injury when he was younger.
Right.
He's always got this full-on hat on and everything." And I said, "Oh man, I really like your stuff." And he's like, "Hey man, that's great." And I said, "Oh, that song, Hey Laura, always play that one to my wife." And he goes, "Yeah, well, that's a song about unrequited love."
You're like, "Yep."
And it was kind of like
that works.
when you've listened to a song but never really taken note of the lyrics as such. And then I went back and listened to it. Thought, oh yeah, this is about someone who's got a bit obsessive about an unrequited love.
Yeah.
Almost the stalker kind of.
Yeah.
phase.
Because I was at a birthday party, a kid's birthday party, and they're doing Pass the Parcel, and the chap put on Roxanne by Police. I was like, it's a great song. No, it wasn't Roxanne. It was Every Breath You Take.
All right, okay.
And it must have just been on his playlist. It was like, probably not great for a Pass the Parcel for a 9-year-old. Because really, everybody, they might have that at their wedding, mightn't they? It's one of those songs. And actually, it is about a stalker and, we don't go deep.
It's like those REM song, like Night Swimming or something, which is about suicide. But you're like, oh, Night Swimming, such a beautiful song.
I've got no idea. I'm a rhythm person. I'm not a melody or lyrics.
Oh, you're not?
No, I very rarely remember lyrics. I've got a few in the bank that stuck with me, but no, I'm not particularly inquisitive. I'm just like the vibe and the beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't know that about Night Stalking. That's a suicide one, is it? Oh,
Night Swimming. Yeah,
Night Swimming.
Yeah.
It sort of says it in the title if you really do think a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of these things do it, but I suppose that's thinking that mindless lyrics aren't always mindless, I suppose.
Yeah. No,
I think about that with some of the stuff my kids listen to.
Yeah.
But,
here we go. Here's Night Swimming. They were good REM, weren't they?
Yeah.
They're not really that well. They don't get remembered as much as maybe they should do.
No.
Night swimming.
I can tell why now.
I realised they did the soundtrack on Man on the Moon. That Jim Carrey movie about.
Brilliant movie, yeah.
Yeah. I realised the songs on that one. Yeah, Andy Kaufman, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I know we could talk about. Maybe we need a separate episode for because we could talk about that for days and days and days. I am a bit worried about the time when we get to your favourite film.
Oh man, answering that question as well.
I know. That's a stretch, isn't it? That's a stretch. Awesome. That's great. That's great that you met him though, because you only live about 300 meters from Wimbledon tennis court.
Yeah. Really, really nice little spot, and you can see the roof of Court 1 from our garden and stuff, which is
amazing.
As a lifelong Wimbledon tennis fan,
I know. What a place to.
Yeah.
What a place to drop in and find yourself. It's great, that, isn't it? Brilliant. Okay, so let's get down to. Okay, there's this concept. I think it's in Native American spirituality. It's probably in the Incas. It's probably in ancient things about spirit animals and having a spirit animal. So, what would your spirit animal be?
I don't really identify with any animal as such, but then I asked Laura, my wife, what animal would you say I'm like? And she said I'm a bit like a bear.
Bears are cool.
But a friendly one, most of the time.
Bears are cool. Why would Laura say that about you, though? Why? Thinking about what Laura sees in you, why would she say that?
Just because I'm big.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess she sees me as a protective presence who would away any campers who, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to get Laura on to answer that one.
Yeah. I always think, do you remember that show Big Ben? About the kid who was friends with a bear in America?
Yeah.
I always think of that, he was a friendly bear, but he was also very protective, if any danger came near.
Well, that's a nice thing for a wife to see in you. That's a nice thing for a wife to see in you, mate.
Yeah.
Independent, protective, grizzly, sometimes angry, sometimes asleep for months.
Figuratively.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, well, own it, take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Have that one. To be honest, I don't even know what mine is, but that's for a different thing. But I asked these questions, and I don't even have any idea what mine would be. But I'll ask Heather. I'll see what she says.
You should do a podcast where it's you talking to you.
Do you know what I thought about that the other day? Funnily enough, but I thought that was a bit too narcissistic.
Yeah, maybe when you're 100 episodes in and you run out of guests.
Yeah. Well, we'll never run out of guests.
No.
Because everybody's desperate for attention. Yes, it is. All right. We're gonna get spiritual now. So you're not allowed to say Jesus, but who is your favourite biblical character?
Bar Jesus? No, I'm just kidding. I really like Peter, the Jesus disciple, and I think the journey he goes on, from being dead impetuous, and yes, pick me, like he's immediately he responds to the call of Jesus, and then we see this character trait in him, of him sort of talking before he thinks and agreeing to stuff, and it culminates in the night of the crucifixion, with Jesus kind of saying, "You're going to deny me," and he's like, "No way, I'm going to deny you." Cuts off the soldier's ear. He's sort of right there, and he's sort of just acting out of almost of his emotions rather than thinking things through.
Yeah.
And then what I really like is from his books, First and Second Peter. Obviously, he's older and he's maturer.
Yeah.
And one of the major themes, especially in Second Peter, is like patience and waiting on the Lord.
Yeah.
It's got some of the most famous verses. Like a year to the Lord can be like 1,000 years, 1,000 years can be like a day.
Yeah.
And sort of a lot of verses about waiting on God's prophecy, and it's not in our time, it's in His.
Yeah.
And I really feel that he's learned and he's matured, and he's sort of advising the church as it was, to wait patiently on God and to not act impetuously and stuff. And I just found that really powerful. Obviously that massive experience of denying Christ on the night of the crucifixion, which must have, really stabbed him deeply.
Unbelievable, yeah.
And I was, the scene on the beach in John where, Jesus kind of absolves him and gives him those three opportunities.
Yeah. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Yeah. And
I kind of really put myself in his shoes or his sandals or whatever he was wearing in that scene, and think, oh, can you imagine the guilt and the relief he must have felt in that moment,
Yeah. And the freedom after it, and
and even in his he's this guy he betrayed his best friend and his Lord, and yet he's given the responsibility, feed my sheep, build my church, and I just think that's it's quite interesting because I've done this coaching course just recently, and I was talking to a lady over Christmas who's not a Christian, but she was volunteering at the local food bank that I've been volunteering in through COVID, and I said we just got chatting. She was a psychologist, and I said to her, what I've learned is doing the coaching course just how balanced the person of Jesus is, just how good. Well, obviously he's balanced because he's God and man, but in that you find this truly humanness, this balanced human adult who does the right thing at the right time and says the right things at the right time and has the right responses at the right time. And I think there's something in Jesus there that is why Jesus is still so well known globally, because there's something about that person that you see that is so balanced. Yeah.
And then that story you're saying is the 1 Peter, 2 Peter is that Christ likeness in Peter, isn't it? That balanced adult Peter, who's now not that impetuous, running to the tomb. He's more patient. He's more adult. He's got wisdom.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes, I think, through his relationship with and his adventuring with Jesus to see this what it means to be truly human.
Yeah.
And Peter's become that.
Even in Acts, you've got quite a few stories of Peter, and again, he's on a learning curve, isn't he?
Yeah.
So he doesn't want, to be eating with Gentiles, for example. you know, and he's insisting on circumcision and all these kind of Jewish customs.
Yeah.
And he's brought on a really steep learning curve, you know, and God almost has to grab him and say, no, look.
No, I need you to be this. I need you to be this now, Peter. You need to move forward. You need to develop. And I just think it gives us all hope, doesn't it, from being, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, these developmental leaps in our faith, in our Christ-likeness, to become more. It's a slow growing process rather than this huge download of change.
Yeah. I often wonder, you know, like thinking back to Peter and his denying Christ, about Judas as well. You know, because Judas betrayed Jesus in a similar way, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he commits suicide, and I kind of think, I think if Judas hadn't committed suicide, I think there would have been grace there for him. I think when Jesus returned, they would have had a moment with Judas.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it's not like it's a sad end to that story, really. And I think Peter's kind of like the flip side of that.
Yeah,
you know, his betrayal is just as deep in another sense. You know, yet he's given that chance of grace and redemption.
Yeah, I that echo like my own thoughts on that subject. I mean, you know, Judas wasn't. He could have come back. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
He could have been in that upper room, even though he'd done the 30 pieces of silver and betrayed Jesus so badly. He could have come back. There was always hope for him, but he just in the end denied that hope to himself and to his the world around him. No, it's a great answer. It is, yeah. He's great. Great character.
Yeah.
Peter, brilliant character. So on the same sort of theme, what is your most favourite or worship song? I know you do worship yourself, or you have done in the past. Have you got something that really resonates with you?
I mean, I got do you know this Never Once by Matt Redman?
Oh yeah, it's great.
And it kind of, for those who don't know, we were involved in kind of a building project for a number of years here at the church, renovating the space and having to get finance and through faith. And it's just something that really speaks about persevering and looking back at what God has done.
Yeah.
And it was a song that at various points throughout that process really spoke to me and my wife in particular.
Yeah. No, because it was a tough journey, the Freshground journey. Well, look where you are now. It's amazing to focus on that more. But
yeah,
I just love Matt Redman as well.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
He really is a community worship singer-songwriter. He's a gathering. He gathers people in through his music.
Yeah. We all know my true favourite worship song is Step by Step.
Oh, by Matt Norris. That's amazing. Somebody got in touch with me the other day about that and asked me to send it to them.
Really?
They heard it from that conference that we went to.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. I said that'll be 99p. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
Have you ever written a song? Have you ever written a worship song or tried to write a song?
I've definitely tried to, but not with any success. I wouldn't have thought. They all sound. I don't mean this as a disrespect. They all sound a bit Graham Kendricky, kind of 1980s.
Key change.
Yeah, you know, like so. They don't sound very contemporary, so I'm not very pleased with them. But I can't. I'm not like. I wouldn't say I'm a songwriter on any level. But my daughter Jessica, who's obviously studying music and is really interested, she started writing a few pieces, and they're really interesting. So I'm sort of like, I'm going to live vicariously through her, and hopefully she gets into
that's what I do,
writing some worship songs.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's what I'm doing with Gabe, you know, going along to the movie sets with him and the TV sets. I'm like, hi, I'm Gabe's dad. I've got no talent whatsoever for that, but hey, I'm there, so... no, it isn't easy. I mean, that song I wrote, I literally popped into my world like a proper sort of Morocco and on holiday in Morocco, and I woke up and it was pretty much there.
Yeah.
There was just one line I had to change from the whole thing, and it was actually, Heather said, I think I've heard that line before, and it was actually a Matt Redman rip-off line.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, from Endless Hallelujah. I just Googled it, and it came up, Endless Hallelujah, Matt Redman. And it was
no way.
Yeah, so I just changed a few words in it, same line, but just changed it all together. But it isn't easy. And it's one of those things that makes you really vulnerable as well, writing things. Because when you first ask somebody to listen to it, it's one of the it's hard grab.
Good step by step by step was really good.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a real sort of earworm as well, you know, and got very sort of easy to remember.
Yeah. It was a weird one. It was weird. Weird how these things just pop into your life. Yeah, it's good though. Awesome. So Never Once by Matt Redman. It is a great choice.
Yeah.
I love that song too. Love that song. So you have been arrested in the and you've been charged with first-degree murder, and you've been found guilty, and now you're residing on death row, and it's time for your last meal. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if that scenario offends people, you're now at your favourite restaurant. You can have any chef, and you can ask that chef to make you a fantasy meal, 3 courses. What would it be?
I like the fear and anticipation of your last meal ever on death row.
Yeah, that food would taste amazing.
Well, I really like macaroni and cheese, so I think I'd have that for a starter, but a really good one.
Mac and cheese?
Like with, you know, well seasoned, some nice leeks in it, maybe a bit of crispy pancetta, you know, some interesting cheeses.
Have you got a go-to place where you get where's the best place you've had mac and cheese?
I don't say there's a go-to place, actually. I like making it myself. Is that bad? So, yeah.
It's a good food.
Yeah, I just like it. It's that comfort food. I think it was favourite growing up and stuff.
It's very fulfilling to eat.
Yeah. And then, what would I have for main? Maybe like a really nice, spicy Indian meal with all the trimmings. You know, like a tandoori chicken.
Yeah.
Peshwari naan.
Yeah.
Rice. Poppadoms. Mango chutney.
Okay. This sounds great. Yeah. You don't have poppadoms. You've had your starter already.
Oh yeah, I don't think it'd go very well after the macaroni and cheese. It's a bit heavy, wouldn't it? But...
Doesn't matter. Because, you know, ultimately, you're not going to be clearing up the mess.
Exactly.
You may as well leave them with work to do.
If you're really full and bloated when you get electrocuted, does it?
I suspect it probably does, and that's what I mean. It's payback. Have as much as you want.
Does it cause forced defecation?
I suspect it probably does.
It's not very pleasant, is it?
No, it would be awful. But
I remember seeing The Green Mile at the cinema with one of my relatives who, for some reason, found the execution scenes very funny. Oh. The rest of the cinema found them traumatic.
It was traumatic, wasn't it?
It was. But it was more traumatic sitting next to someone who was laughing their head off.
It was that like a sort of a defensive laugh then, you know, in the sort of like because he couldn't cope with the trauma, so he sort of laughed it out.
I think it was in the. Do you remember the film? It was in when they had that failed execution where he's forgotten to put the wet sponge.
Oh, dude, yeah.
On the head. So it goes on for a long time, and obviously, like you're seeing the electricity light up his face and stuff. And I think the person who it was just thought it wasn't realistic, when the opposite was true. It was very realistic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You sort of saw it as a cartoon moment, like a frying pan hitting coyote rather than a really serious cinema moment. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, what's your dessert then?
So I'm not a massive sweet tooth kind of person.
Yeah.
But then I thought quite like a bar of Cadbury's chocolate, and I don't know if you can beat it. Like you sometimes get bought fancy chocolates from Hotel Chocolat or wherever, and then you think, they're nice, but nothing beats a Cadbury's dairy milk. Yeah. So
no, I totally agree. It's a great ending. I haven't got a sweet tooth at all, so. But Cadbury's chocolate, there is something about that is really amazing. Really amazing. I'm a cheesecake person if I go out.
Oh, okay.
Just because it's got a bit of savoury, it's not too sweet.
I'm a bit funny, you know, when you have such a severe change of texture in a food.
Oh yeah, okay.
Sort of goes through me a bit. So like a Twix bar always like really goes through me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Cheesecake as well. So I have to eat the layers separately if I do it.
You have to sort of what do they call it in posh restaurants? Deconstruct it. Deconstructed cheesecake.
even with like a Jaffa cake, I'll have to sort of extricate the little orangey bit from that.
That's tiring. That's tiring. That's amazing. Yeah. God, no, I've never met anybody who does that, Jace. That's a number one.
Or even with the Cadbury's chocolate eclair, you know.
Get that little hacksaw. Oh. No, I think textures. I don't like. It's not a texture; it's a taste thing. But I don't like sweet and sour.
Okay.
So, like, people have pineapple on a pizza. No, it's because it's the two tastes are too distinct. I'm not a fan of that. I just
do you like salty caramel?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's Gabe's favourite ice cream, but no, I don't like it. It's too distinct. Too conflicting the tastes.
I'm kind of with him. I like salty caramel.
Yeah,
and sweet and sour.
Well, don't you take the caramel out and put it on one side of your plate and
have a pile of salt and a pile of caramel?
I wouldn't go that far, Matthew, with my craziness. Okay, so what do you love about church? I'm really on this kick at the moment. I really want to celebrate what church is and what church brings to the world. I think sometimes we can be so in it that we don't sort of promote it well enough. So this is one of the questions that I'm really interested in. Like, what is it about church that makes you, in this modern world, that says, Jason Knight, you don't have to go. Why do you go to church?
I'm the pastor. I have to. I think obviously there is it's difficult to sort of see church as separate from my calling and my role and everything here. And then there's kind of I think this is sort of inbuilt in me. I'm always looking ahead to how things can be better and rarely kind of stop and appreciate what is actually happening in the present, which I need to be much better at. And when I think about that, I just think for our church here, we're a pretty brand new church plant. And over the course of the years, we brought people together from a range of different backgrounds. I think the best thing is seeing those people now who didn't know each other at all before be Christ to each other. You know, so people who possibly wouldn't have even been in the church at this point, actually caring for one another and really showing love to one another. Yeah. And I think that's a kind of amazing thing to observe when you see people actually.
I think it's unique. There's not many tribes or social groups that have that incredible spectrum and mix of diversity that can be held together by that common cause that is Jesus or faith.
But even further, like, because we here at Freshground, we sort of tried to build that wider sense of community and the different, I suppose, non-church groups to meet here as well. So we've seen that even that interaction between, those groups and those individuals and people within the worshiping community. Yeah. So even that sense of community is not just for those who are gathering here on Sundays or on Zoom or whatever, but actually it's been a bit broad. And so I think that's the most amazing thing to see and to sort of take note of that and be appreciative of it rather than, always looking to what's the next thing.
Yeah, because we've got a bit more of a traditional setup at Bristol. Well, we did have. I don't know what it's going to look like when we go back. But I'm sure it'll be fine, but you just never know because of COVID. And one of the things that I've always delighted in, from a baby all the way to 90 years old and in between, there's this incredible spectrum of people and cultures, and they're just there in this... of course, it's not perfect, but there's a togetherness there because of Jesus, because of that presence of God that joins us together, and that is so special. It is, and then the framework is so positive. What it actually tells us to be to each other.
Well, I think when you really drill down into it as well, is sometimes the connections that people will have with one another. They're what's going to hold the group together rather than or alongside at least doctrine and what they believe. Actually, what holds the community together is each other and that 100%. Interconnectedness of relationship.
Yeah.
So, not that obviously those other things aren't really important, but actually what holds us together, what should hold us together, is one another and our relationships with each other.
Yeah.
And through that, our relationships with Jesus. Yeah. But obviously, the people are at different stages of faith, if you like.
Yeah.
But actually, people can be connected quite quickly, relationally, in spite of what they believe.
Yeah.
So it's. I think that belonging is quite central.
Yeah.
And is one of the things that things should be built on, as well as belief and doctrine and all that stuff. But actually,
they both sort of feed each other, though, don't they?
They do.
Belong, and then once you learn that you go deeper in your faith, deeper in the knowledge of the faith, then that impacts the belonging, and then the belonging goes deeper, and it should be like this nice sort of flow and between those things, I think. To make it a really healthy, good, healthy, happy, faith community. It's good, that.
I think it's also been dead important for, I suppose the form of our worship, or how to put it, the quality of services and things throughout the years has been very up and down, I suppose. We've not been able to always have the bells and whistles, but actually if you've got that community together, that's been really important. And especially like with Zoom and stuff, I mean, we're probably not quite as tech savvy as you guys at Bristol and stuff, but actually it's the strength of relationships that has kept us together.
It's interesting that, because I think at the beginning I went the sort of live way and doing stuff like this, but actually, and because I focused on that wholly, and also people were zoomed out very quickly in Bristol, there was a lot of people. But I actually think in a way we did miss out on some of those community gathering moments through Zoom, however weird and odd that was. However imperfect Zoom is. But I do think we've maybe missed out on that. That's probably just because we focused on one thing and we've gone down that.
Yeah.
And it all has worth. But I can totally hear what you're saying. There's going to be some rebuilding, I think, in every church when we can come back.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think people will be more aware of it and maybe more thankful for the community when we come back properly.
Yeah. I think as well, it's kind of, obviously we want our, whatever we put on, for want of a better word, to be of good quality, and stuff. But I've quite often likened it to the old concepts are in a Sunday dinner at the family.
Yeah.
You don't sort of up sticks and leave because the potatoes are slightly overdone, or it's not the reason you sat down. Really,
the cheesecake hasn't been separated.
No, I mean you want the meal to be. Ideally, you want the meal to be good and tasty, don't you? But you're not going to sort of ditch your family because turkey's dry or whatever. But,
well, for us, an interesting thing, because we were more traditional, that an hour and a quarter service. 20 minutes worship. That classic. And actually, when people came back in August, September, maximum of about 15 people, we actually went to the online, because we were doing 40 minutes online.
Yeah.
And it was a real eye-opener, to be honest, and it really echoes what you're saying, because I think that's what we will go back to, just initially anyway, a 40-minute service. Because what was happening prior to COVID, we were doing the hour and the quarter. People were coming in with 5 minutes to start because of life and culture and busyness. And they were also leaving 5 minutes after the end.
Right.
Some stayed, some left. And actually, the ritual and the worship time became top heavy, I feel now, looking back. And now looking at what we did for the 40 minutes, but then that gives us another hour to be together and to belong and socialise. And moving back in April, May, June, July, whenever that happens, I'm definitely going to stick to that new rhythm.
Yeah. And you can. There's ways you can even build that into your service, can't you? That you can even have a fellowship time and then draw everyone back together for communion or a closing.
I think everything's up for grabs now, Jay. I really do. I think we need to really look at what we were before and what we're going to be afterwards. And I think this is a time of, reflection and contemplation about structures and rituals and traditions. That hour and a quarter thing still might work for a church.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure it's going to still work for us. So let's change it up a little bit. Keep all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But make sure we belong. I like that, Jason. Yeah, the belonging. It's really important. Yeah. Yeah, belonging. There you go. Very good answer. Thank you very much. No wrong answers. Well, there are wrong answers there, aren't they? But
I like the candles. Smells and smells are my favourite thing about the church.
Well, some people love all that, don't they?
Oh yeah.
They really do. Okay, next question then. What, in your opinion, is the best movie ever made? In your subjective opinion. And I'll give you 3 because I know this is going to be a stretch.
Well, for a long time I've said Shawshank Redemption. However, my daughter went to school and told some of her classmates that it was Shawshank Redemption, and one of them said, "Oh, that's every dad's favourite movie." So I felt, I feel like, you know, I'm not very cool if I say that.
Own it. You don't have to be cool.
No, I know, and actually, I really loved the movie. You know, I took Jessica to see it. It was playing in the cinema last October, and first time she'd seen it, and it was just amazing.
It is,
and I've never seen it at the cinema before, and I hadn't sort of appreciated. You know, and it's one of those movies you go back to and you appreciate something new every time. And this time, seeing it on the big screen, it was like I didn't realize how dark, like physically dark, the first half of the movie is.
Yeah.
And actually, the light palette gets lighter and lighter as the movie goes on, and as more hope comes in.
Yeah.
And it felt,
the tree at the end, and it's on the beach, blue sky, it's cold.
But you really felt the claustrophobia in the cinema, like you don't feel in the same way at home. And I'd say, like I say, going to the cinema is one of the things I've missed most in lockdown.
Yeah.
Because what it encourages me to do that I don't do at home, I usually have like a day off where I go to the cinema, got one of those Cineworld cards. Yeah. And usually, like, there's only a certain time I can see it between sort of 12 and 3. So I just go and see whatever's showing during those times. Yeah. You often go and end up seeing stuff you wouldn't necessarily pick to see.
Yeah.
And actually, going to the cinema forces you to sit through the movie, whereas you don't at home.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying something after 10 minutes, you flick it off or flick around.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, some of those most rewarding experiences are actually being forced to sit through something you wouldn't ordinarily, and can be really rewarding. So I really miss the cinema.
And that's its medium, isn't it? I mean, that's its true medium. It's like looking at a Picasso on an iPad. Or whatever. If the medium is the directors and the writers are thinking about that huge screen with the great sound.
Yeah. I think having those spaces where we concentrate, you know, for a forced concentration for a couple of hours is really important.
It is,
for me to switch off, you know, which I need to do.
Yeah.
I need that, you know, something to have my attention for that time.
Yeah.
So, so Shawshank Redemption used to be the answer, and then I was, and sort of still is. You know, it's a
okay. So what's the new cool Jason answer?
This new cool film called It's a Wonderful Life.
How is it?
I mean, we watch it every Christmas, and I'd tell you, like, I think I liked it the first time I seen it, and now I find it sort of indispensable viewing. And emotionally, it gets me from the very first scene, and I just think, the value of life in the midst of a pretty dark world.
Yeah.
And the message it brings, that every life is valuable, and it's quite socialist in its way as well. You know, like I just love it. Yeah, so
it's a good choice.
One of my favourites.
Are you going to test that with Jessica's friends?
I don't know.
Don't. He'll what, that crap? Oh, yeah, don't watch that. It hasn't even got any colour in it. Nah. I've got one of my greatest achievements is getting Gabriel to watch subtitled movies.
All right, okay.
Yeah, he does it with anime, but then also we've started to do it with, like, I like Korean horror films and sort of Asian horror films, and they're always the best in the original language. I love that.
Yeah. I've been trying to get the kids to watch Parasite. Have you seen that one?
Oh no, is it good?
Oh, Parasite, yeah.
Oh, Parasite. No, yeah. I was disappointed, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, you were? Oh.
Yeah, I think I went into Parasite thinking it was going to be a different type of movie.
Right, okay.
So when I watched it, I was like, oh, what's going on? Where's the Parasite?
Were you expecting more of a horror, straight-up horror?
Yeah, and I think it got sold to us like that a little bit as well on the trailer.
Yeah.
It was a bit more dark, the trailer, a bit more like I was waiting for the parasite to grab me.
It's much more that sort of social commentary, isn't it?
It is,
Class barriers and
very good film. I've watched it twice now. I enjoyed it the second time because I knew what it was coming.
Yeah.
But it's a good film. Good film.
So I like the director of that Bong Joon-ho, I think he's called.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to get over the 1-inch barrier.
Yeah,
that's what he was referring to subtitles, to sort of open up that world of cinema. And
I'm bored. So American movies and British movies, of course, they're amazing accomplishments. But actually, I find myself going international a lot more, just because it's a new culture, surprising. They use different methods of filming. You know what I mean? It's just slightly quirky. It's just different. I've seen so many US films and so many British films that I'm ready for. I found myself just getting a bit jaded by them all.
Yeah, that's the effect as well. Like talking about concentration. You have to concentrate if you're watching a subtitled movie. You can't be on your phone and just look. Looking at it every now and again. You have to sort of be there and present.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
That's 2 movies. Have you got a third one? I said I'd give you 3 because you're such a movie buff.
I could just talk about movies I like. I think me and you are both fans of that podcast, aren't we? Movies to be buried with.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could do that sort of space to think about what's my favourite movie in each kind of genre.
People haven't heard that podcast. I love it. It's so good.
I'll go for a slightly different answer, which would be my favourite movie character.
Oh yeah,
is Rocky.
Fair enough.
So not all the movies are sort of classic movies.
No.
But I love his character.
Yeah. Underdog becomes the champ.
Underdog.
The champ becomes the champ, then underdog again. Yeah.
Yeah, and just how much heart he has, and he becomes a bit of a COD philosopher.
Yeah. Very well written. I think again because of the way he's portrayed himself publicly, he doesn't get the sort of kudos enough. Sylvester Stallone, he wrote it. He directed it, didn't he? The first one.
No, he didn't. He directed some of the others.
Yeah, but he wrote that first one. And
wrote it. Yeah.
Super intelligent, super creative person.
Yeah. And
he gets a bit undersold, I think, because of that.
Well, I think just because he was that sort of became the archetype, didn't he, in the 80s of the macho, muscle, very good Hollywood hero sort of thing.
Well, unless you diversify and go to places where they're talking about the process, most interviews now are pretty shallow and they're just selling a product.
Yeah.
Like Graham Norton or, Jonathan Ross. You don't get anything about the actual process of filmmaking. You don't really see Sylvester Stallone as that intelligent screenwriter, director, producer. I mean, to be that person is unbelievably intelligent person, aren't they? They have to be driven. And that's why I quite like that Films to be Buried With podcast. And the Mark Commode one, obviously, is really good when he's talking to people on they're really good podcasts because you get an idea of process then. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, these people are special.
Yeah.
Really special.
Yeah.
Good answers. Awesome. Okay. So, have I missed a question? I always miss questions. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is the final question. So, you have won the lottery, but again, if that concept offends people out there, you've inherited loads of money from somebody, like loads of money, like loads. And you can be completely selfish about this. We've had a few different answers, some quite righteous and beautiful and, and then others, a little bit more greedy, that's what I like. That's where I would go in my answer. But what would you do with the money? What would you do, Jason, with all that money?
Well, I think I would buy, like when I was in Barbados, we were invited there by a couple of sort of Nazarenes who moved back over there.
Yeah.
So we went over for a family holiday, and it's kind of it's like Nazarene Island.
Okay. You'd moved there.
You've got 33 Nazarene churches on the island, which
what?
It's crazy. We rented a little car, and it's almost like every little township you come to, there's a Nazarene church, and it's like obviously being in the UK where no one's even heard of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird experience.
Yeah, yeah.
One day we were doing this sort of coastal walk, and we came across this. It was like a perfect paradise-like cove, deserted beach, lovely, amazing sight. And then there was a building at the back of the beach, backed onto the building. It had no windows, even looking out at the sea. And we even said, who would build a building without anyone? We found a window looking at it. We came around the corner. It was a Nazarene church.
It's about right. It's about right in some ways, isn't it? We can't have any pleasure.
So distraction. So I thought if I was to get a load of money, what I'd do is I'd go over to Barbados and buy that church
and put a window in
and turn it into like a retreat centre.
Yeah.
Where you could bring people and have pastors' retreats and
an infinity pool all the way around.
Yeah, infinity pool.
Make
it really high class and
or make it out of glass. Make the whole place out of glass.
That's what I'd do. Yeah, I'm not too. I'd still like to do something where you were sort of gathering people, but gathering people in Barbados.
Is there not like a luxury item that you would like for yourself? Something just for you.
Yeah, tennis court.
Yeah,
and then some bionic knees so I could play tennis.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's really boring. I mean, a house for when I retire, but I'm not really that bothered. I can't really say I've been.
I know
that'd be the practical answer. That'd be the practical answer, sort of.
Yeah, house, car, sort your family out, university.
Yeah, but
everything's paid. Yeah, no, of course we'd all do all that. Yeah, we'd definitely do all that.
I've just I had a ride in a Tesla earlier, like a bit of test drive in a Tesla.
Oh, nice.
Not because I'm thinking of buying one. Someone from church is a Uber driver and he's bought a Tesla because more money and bits and pieces. But he let me have a test drive of it and it was really nice. It was like
was it comfortable inside then? Was it a nice place to be?
Yeah, I mean, so it was like, it's obviously automatic, but it's honestly the easiest car to drive.
Oh.
And, you've got the autopilot if you want it. And we had to go to the cruise control, and actually it's intelligent cruise control, so it slows down automatically when it sees other vehicles and
amazing
starts up itself. It's good.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, you can have a Tesla.
Yeah.
A gold-plated Tesla that bounces up and down on the rear axle when you're going through Clapham with a massive Bose sound system playing Gregory Porter.
Yeah, there you go.
See, everybody wants luxury in the end, Jace. Everybody.
That's what you want. You want the shallow, materialistic answer for that question.
Yeah. That's all I want. Okay, final question though, mate. Thank you. It's been awesome. So after 10 months of COVID and then moving into the next few months and maybe beyond a little bit, on a sort of uptick, hopeful thing, this is what I'm asking everybody at the end of these podcasts at the moment, is what do you want to take away from COVID that you want to hold on to? What's the thing that you want to take away from COVID and make sure continues to happen after these terrible times have come to an end?
Also, something we've sort of started during COVID.
Just something about what COVID has maybe put the brakes on, or maybe giving you a different view of life, something that you're thankful for, something, that you've realised that you want to keep in your life, even when the life opens up again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to have an appreciation of the freedoms we usually have, and not to take, I think a lot of people said this, not to take what we ordinarily have for granted, being able to, sounds like the simplest thing, being able to go up to your parents' house for Christmas and hug your parents, meet up with someone for, for coffee. So just those things, really appreciation of being present with people, I suppose, would be something I think we've all missed. I think there's a slight nervousness to it as well. We've all become these little rabbits in our burrows.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's going to be that nervousness as we venture back out, and then just have that appreciation of.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody just before I did this about the very same thing. I think as people have dealt with lockdown in different ways. I think people will deal with unlockdown in different ways too.
Yeah.
I think some will come with trepidation, some will come with be a bouncy sort of enthusiastic anti-lockdown. So I think it's going to be a real mixed bag.
I've talked with you quite a bit, haven't I, about I think for the church, there's been obviously quite a wide conversation at the beginning of the lockdown last year, at least, you know, about, this is a real opportunity to change and to do things differently and all these kind of things. And I didn't necessarily, in our context, I didn't necessarily feel like that. I felt very much like lots of things were on a very much an upward trajectory, but when lockdown hit.
Yeah.
And we are a church who have been quite experimental and done things a bit differently. So I didn't necessarily see, you know, we didn't need a crisis to force change, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but obviously, as we return, we want to do what's right, safe, and it's gonna be good for the community.
No, I think you're right. I think I've said this a lot. I think the church that you were before lockdown really impacts the church you are after lockdown. I know it sounds stupid, but we, like I say, we were a busy 70 plus congregation, projects, and that's who we were, and that was fine. But that came to a screeching halt, and to re-engage with that and to rematerialize that, or I don't know, it just feels so far away. However, you guys were a new build, new church plan, all the sort of psychology of a post-lockdown church is already there for you guys, because that's the way you're thinking anyway. Yeah, you're a moving forward church. We were not a stood still church in the sense of inactive. We were just in maintenance mode, you know, and it was fine.
I think it's whether we're in lockdown or not, you know, it's what is the purpose behind what we do, you know. For us, we have our mission statement. How does it tie into the mission statement of the church? You know, and always asking that question, you know, because you very easily start, you know, like we had on paper, we had a very successful stay and play with kind of 100 kids a week and this, that, and the other. But actually, in some sense, it was too busy and it was losing its purpose because it was so busy we weren't able to make meaningful connections. With people. You know, so I think that's one thing that has obviously had to stop during lockdown. And we're thinking how we do that with smaller sessions when we reopen and, you know, more fixed groups, but still. Yeah,
I hear that. I totally hear. Like for us, we had a kids club and it was a drop off your kid at the door, pay £1, walk away, come back in an hour and a quarter. Again, during midway through lockdown when we could open up, we changed that to, you know, because parents had to be there because we didn't have the safeguarding. And you know what? It was a lot more vital. And it was that thing you're talking about. Instead of parents dropping and going, you actually started to build relationships with adults as well as the children. I can't see us as a church. Well, I certainly don't want to go back to the drop and play thing. I think in its day and in its time, and I think it was a little bit of a generational thing, it worked well. But now in the modern world, to build relationships across the spectrum, just having these one single focused projects to build community, I don't think quite works for us at Bristol anymore. So I think you're right. I think that's really good.
I think like it's given us lots of time to think about, like, because the reality here as well is we're running a business as well as a ministry, and those two things don't always complement each other. For example, on business, it's great to have a busy, thriving coffee shop from 9 till 5. For ministry, that can kill it because you can find yourself, you've worked a 6-7 hour shift without having had a meaningful
the cafe's hard,
and you've not had a meaningful conversation with anyone because it's been rushed and you've had
it's bitty.
So the finance manager might be like, oh, you need to increase sales in the cafe. And I'm like, I need to increase connection in the cafe.
Belonging.
You know, and those two things.
You need to increase belonging in the cafe. And that's not always conducive to making money.
No. So it's, I think over the years, the cafe has either made a loss. If you look at the cafe on its own, has either made a loss or broken even. And I think I'm reconciled with that now, rather than thinking, oh, I want the cafe to be this massive money spinner. I'm reconciled with the fact that it's not.
Yeah.
And for it to fulfill its purpose, it can't be really.
Yeah, because to break even, the implications of that is that somewhere else you've created more belonging moments.
Yeah.
Because you've created space where you're not selling stuff.
Yeah. So it's psychologically, that's really, because I think when we did our business plan and mission plan, we sort of said, the cafe will generate funds to go into compassionate ministry or whatever, and not having really been able to do that consistently.
Yeah.
As maybe rethink it and say, well, is the cafe then fulfilling a purpose? And yes, it can do, and is that space where people can gather. Yeah. But we need to, re-emphasize that as the purpose and not the finance. That's a bonus if it happens.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that we can tick over, but it can't be its goal.
100%. 100%. No, I think because we live in a dominant culture that is profit and loss. Everybody wants the profit. Everybody wants to know about the money. And when we ran the charity shop here in Bristol, everybody said, how much money did we make? I'm like, that's not the first question you need to ask. The first question is, who did we help this week?
Yeah.
Who did we talk to? Who did we empower? And then did we make any money?
Yeah.
So I can totally feel that. Yeah. But partly it's because people have been programmed to be profit and loss people in this consumeristic world. So
yeah. And well, there's a viability issue as well, isn't there? You do have to, if you're employed,
of course, money's important.
Cover wages and stuff. But I think, I had someone else from another church ring me up and ask about cafe ministry, and they're thinking of launching something. And I just said, well, right off the bat, don't expect it to make money. If that's, if you're going into this saying, we'll run a business and it's going to generate funds. Yeah. Because I've had cafe manager friends who sort of said, really, even for them as managers of the cafe or as owners, they're not making any money until they've opened 2-3 sites and what have you. Yeah. So even in the commercial world, one cafe is never going to be enough. So,
Freshground 2, Freshground 3, Freshground 4, 2025.
What to do? New York, Freshground New York, Freshground Paris.
Yeah, well,
Freshground Tokyo,
Bristol, Rotherham, Grimsby.
Oh, yeah.
Think big, Grimsby.
Scunthorpe.
And if anybody's from Scunthorpe watching this, I'd like to apologise for Jason.
It was a compliment.
No one's listening from Scunthorpe, don't worry.
But they have technology and stuff in.
Sorry. It was very positive until that. No, I'm only
sorry.
No, awesome. That's great. That's great. So just to create more belonging places and to be thankful for them, and to be aware of them and to celebrate them. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Jason, you are awesome. You're a good friend. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that you've been on this podcast. And thank you very much.
Oh, cheers, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's good for you to be here. I'm now going to press. I did use the word unrecord originally, which is not right. So I'm going to press stop on the record. Thank you, Jason. Bless you and bless your church.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.